Hi everyone, Kirk here with Kirk's Motorrad Shop in Crystal Lake, Illinois. Wanted to talk to you today about clutches. One of the most frequent questions that I get asked on whether it's through comments, emails, phone calls is how long should a clutch last on a K1200 LT? I also get that same question on many other bikes as well, but the predominant one seems to be the LT because the LT is very heavy and it can wear out the clutch very quickly. There's really not a definitive answer to how long can a clutch last. There's too many factors that go into it. The number one factor is how do you drive? If you're driving an LT and you rev the thing up and then go off from a stop, you are going to wear out your clutch way faster than somebody who doesn't. The ideal RPM to run your LT is at 2,000 RPMs or lower when you're pulling away from a stop sign or a stoplight. Once you get the bike moving and you've let off the clutch in first gear, then all bets are off. You can do whatever you want. You can rev that thing up to red line and shift. It will be just fine. The clutch is going to handle that. The big thing, though, is just getting going. So I have seen clutches last 20,000 miles. I've seen them last well over 100,000 miles on the single clutch disc. Let's just bring you over to the bench and I'll go on from there. So here, this set right here, this is a brand new set. So I have the pressure plate, I have the clutch disc, and here we have the cover plate. So how thick is a brand new clutch disc? This is going to be in millimeters. So I'm not doing inches because, this is a metric bike, so we're going to use metric. It's really sitting right at 6 millimeters is a brand new clutch disc. You can see it's 5.97. That's 6 millimeters. So this is a Sachs branded disc. You can get aftermarket discs. They're really going to be the same when it comes to thickness. Inside here you can see in this clutch disc there's some little metal fibers in there, some sintered metal. That is that helps keep the plate cool. So you don't want to burn your clutch. That's why you don't want to sit there at a stop sign and be slowly letting off your clutch or holding yourself still, because this thing's heating up all the time when it's sliding inside there. I'll even give you a little brief, very brief tutorial on how a clutch actually operates in your motorcycle. This is your cover plate. Here's your pressure plate. I'm just going to throw these things together. Here's the spring. So the spring sits in this direction here, and this part is against the engine side. Okay, this is where your clutch carrier is. There's like a bronze ring that goes right here to kind of separate it away from the aluminum clutch carrier. But this is connected essentially to the backside of the motor because it's always pressed up against the clutch carrier through that long shaft that comes right through here. I'll demonstrate it kind of with a pencil. There's a long shaft that goes here, and then on the outside of this shaft is your slave cylinder. So that slave cylinder pushes in, it releases the clutch. So this is always pushing tension. This spring is always pushing tension against your pressure plate until you push this away. Then it releases that tension. It releases it a little bit, just enough so that this clutch can freely spin inside there. Otherwise, when it's locked up, it won't move. Now this little gear that's inside here, which is attached to the input shaft on your transmission, is allowed to spin. This is a used disc that has, I think, rated about 50,000 miles on it. If it looks like this, one, you don't want to reuse this because it's got 50,000 miles on it. Now, if it only had 25,000 miles on it, I would take your measure, because you might be able to get away with putting it back in for a while if you don't mind the work. You can see this one's sitting at 5.14 millimeters. That's really not terrible. That's not out of spec for this. The spec on here, where BMW says that the clutch is worn out, is 4.6. So you've got between 4.6 and 6.1, give or take, or 6.0 give or take a few. You know, it's going to be right around the 6 millimeters. So let's take a look at some of the other parts of the clutch on that 50,000 mile clutch, because I changed out the whole thing. You can see here, this is the cover plate, and you can look in the video. I'll kind of slowly move this around. It should be focused on there pretty well. You can see there's some little bit of discoloration in here, a little bit of glazing, some light cracking in the glaze. Really, this is pretty normal. This one, it's kind of right on the line to me when I look at this. I just kind of eyeball it, and it's like, well, if it needs it, it's going to get a new one. Or if the customer specifically requests that I put all new stuff in, of course, then I'm going to do it. Here's the pressure plate. Now, the pressure plate actually is a little bit worn out on this one. This is the same bike. You can see there's that same discoloration, and you can see there's a little bit of an edge right here, a little groove. So this is pretty mirrored to me, and it really needed to get changed. So I'm glad that we opted to go ahead and just put a new clutch in. I would have recommended that. Had I gotten this apart and saw what this looked like anyway, I would have recommended that right from the go. I have no idea what the owner or the previous owner drove this bike like. These are wear parts. They wear out. Do the springs go bad? I'm sure that they do. It's better if you're going to put in a brand new clutch to just go ahead and pop for the spring as well, and go ahead and put a brand new spring in there. Even though these are kind of spendy, it's worth just putting another one in if you're going to go through all this hassle. Now, if you open your bike up and you find a clutch disc that looks like this, well, you seriously have got some problems. What on earth were you doing to get a clutch disc like this? You were either doing hole shots, or you were towing a car. This thing is so messed up. I threw away the heavy parts. I should have saved them. They were so grooved out. It's just like your brake rotors, you know, when you leave your brakes go to metal and then the rivets start digging in. Yeah, this one was, wow. This goes on my wall because it amazes me every time I look at it. So I'm going to show you just a couple of other examples of some clutch discs and one other clutch plate set that I have, just to show you the variation of what I'm talking about here. So this clutch set came out of a bike that had, I don't know, like 90,000 miles on it. And the reason that the guy brought it in is because the clutch was slipping like crazy because the rear main seal went out and soiled up the clutch. So the clutch disc was ruined. That went right in the garbage. This one, though, I wanted to show you because this thing had an oil bath for quite a while, and it's in remarkable condition for so many miles. This bike basically rode on the highway all the time, so the clutch really didn't get a whole lot of exercise. So that's why I'm saying that your clutch life varies dramatically. If you live in the city where you're on the clutch all the time, if you're constantly getting hit by stoplights and you're having to pull away, you're going to change out your clutch faster. Now I'll just pull out some clutch discs and show you a couple different ones here. So this one was at 55,000 miles that I pulled out of a bike. I really don't remember anything more than that. But this is that same, it's made by Saks. And I'll just measure it out. You can see, look at that, it's 5.56. This clutch is almost not worn out. And it had 55,000 miles on it. This one really, realistically, could go right back in a bike. And, you know, in a pinch or something, when you can't get parts, this could go back in a bike and it would work. All right, this one is 43,000 miles. This one came out of my bike back when my transmission broke at 43,000 miles, and I just went ahead and changed this disc anyway. And that one's sitting at 5.65 millimeters. So, again, this one maybe is right in about the 40% worn out area. Could go back into a bike in a pinch. I just wanted to hold on to it and make a video someday. And those of you guys out there who'd like to practice your German, there's the German word. It's the Kupplung Schliebe. Schiebel. Oh, hell, forget it. It's probably some horrible curse word in German. It's basically... So the last thing I'm going to talk about is the parts that you really must change when you go in there to change your clutch. Unless you know that your rear main seal was changed out, whatever, 30,000 miles ago or something, you know, if you had a problem with your clutch and you had to go in there and fix it again, you really need to change out this seal. The only place I know of to get these seals is from BMW. If you do put an aftermarket seal in there, just know that you may not get the performance that you're hoping for, because there's a lot of oil pressure that comes in behind this. This is held off by this very interesting, I don't know what this material is, but it's kind of hard, and you don't want to do anything that could compromise that. The other thing that you must change out, I'm serious, every time you go in there, change out the O-ring. This is the number one thing that leaks on that brick style engine. It's this O-ring. It goes inside the clutch carrier. So you need to pull off that big nut and change this out. This will leak. This gets hard over time. This one right here is a Viton seal. You can find these aftermarket. I really recommend that you get a Viton seal and you don't use the BMW part, because the BMW part is that black NBR rubber. It hardens up over time regardless of what oil you use, where the Viton seal will last much longer. So always change that seal out. The other seals that you really should change out as well, if you don't change any transmission seal out, always change this one out. This is the input shaft seal. Buy them from BMW because they have this felt ring in here. They are Viton. Definitely change this one out as well, because it will leak eventually. It will start dripping. It has a potential of dripping right onto your clutch and soiling it up, and then the next thing you know, you're slipping gears. These are the other seals that go on the back side of the transmission. This one is for where the slave cylinder goes. This one frequently goes out, so it's a good idea if you're going to be in there and you've got the transmission out. That would be a good time to go ahead and change this seal and just change out this one too. They are pretty expensive from BMW, but you know what? Sometimes we got to take our licks and just suck it up, right? Suck it up, buttercup. So anyway, that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about in regards to your clutch and its longevity. Take it easy on them. Go under 2,000 RPMs when you start off from a stoplight, and then give it hell. Downshift all you want. Ride the thing like you stole it. Enjoy it. It is a good bike. Yeah, they take some work. It's like an airplane. You don't want to be stuck somewhere. Last thing you want is a failure on an airplane. Well, it's the same way on that big BMW, because they can be kind of unwieldy if they get out from underneath you. So guys, check my links below if you want to help support me. But other than that, I will see you on the next one. Ride safe.